Well, the Eagles are 2-0, but the injuries keep piling up. Avonte Maddox officially lost for the year. Who is Howie Roseman going to call this week? Some rumors circulating a move could be made sooner rather than later. Also, Arryn Sippos, his time as the Eagles punter might finally be done. And Jalen Hurts finally responds to the A.J. Brown drama on Thursday night. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome to the Thomas Mott Show on a Monday. Philadelphia, they're banged up. We'll start with that, but let's at least acknowledge with a thumbs up they're 2-0 for the first time in consecutive seasons in 30 years. Philadelphia's not had this good of a start in back-to-back seasons since well before I was born. That's at least some good news here as we get ready for some of the bad news, going with, of course, the Avonte Maddox injury and who to replace him with. Now, it is a Monday, but Philadelphia's already made a move this week, and that is adding another punter to the practice squad. Hallelujah! The time of Arryn Sippos is hopefully officially over. You see it here. Former Steelers and Jets punter Braden Mann is being signed to the Eagles practice squad per Adam Kaplan. He worked out for the Eagles recently. Kind of confusing that he worked out last week, not signed till this week, but still, Braden Mann is officially a Philadelphia Eagle. Now, this, of course, goes back to the practice squad rulings of you can only elevate a practice. So after this week, they'll let Arryn Sippos go, then they'll go ahead and throw Braden Mann in there for weeks 4 through 6 and hope that he is either the answer or another short-term answer, and they bring in another punter to the practice squad to punt week 7, 8, and 9. Either way, Arryn Sippos, he hasn't been terrible, but you see here from Jeff Kerr, he's 22nd out of 28 qualified punters in gross punting average at 43.5. He's also 22nd out of 28 in net punting averages at 38.4. And while, again, punting doesn't win or lose you games most of the time, despite what the comments will say down below, but Philadelphia is needed to upgrade the punter spot. Now they've officially done it, and Braden Mann seems to be like a solid option. Now, the bad news on Avonte Maddox is officially official here on a Monday. Ian Rappaport said this, quote, Avonte Maddox will have surgery this week to repair a torn pec, sources say, after an MRI and additional options. The injury will keep him out indefinitely, potentially for the season. And torn pectorals, they go multiple ways. You've seen some players come back a little bit sooner, some players being gone for the entire year, but basically feel like you're not going to see Avonte Maddox in an Eagles uniform anytime soon, leaving one nickel cornerback left on the roster, and that's Mario Goodrich. Now, I think Mario Goodrich played well in the preseason, and he's filled in, I think, admirably. Not too bad. He can't rip the guy for being a young nickel cornerback, and Philadelphia's put a lot of emphasis on having a good nickel this year, from Zach Berman saying that this was the first year that they had a designated true nickel cornerback coach in Ronnie Williams, and he was, of course, part of the marquee staff in a big-time position that Sean Desai said they need specialized training in. But Philadelphia's options at nickel cornerback are very slim because every other cornerback on their roster besides James Bradbury have really never played nickel. Now, one option already on the roster, not named James Bradbury, could be Eli Ricks. Now, either you move Eli Ricks to the outside, move James Bradbury to the nickel cornerback slot, or you try and figure out a way to get Eli Ricks to play the nickel cornerback slot because in his one snap in the dime package playing against, guess who? It was Justin Jefferson. He was pretty darn good. He said like he was step for step and had a pretty good coverage on the best wide receiver in the National Football League. But the odds are that doesn't really work because Ricks hasn't played a lot of nickel cornerback throughout his career, and even if you wanted to move Ricks outside and then put James Bradbury in the nickel spot, you're paying James Bradbury millions and millions of dollars to not play every single snap, which doesn't make a lot of sense for Philly either. My guess is Philadelphia's going to make a move, whether it's an old veteran or somebody young who hasn't actually made an active roster from a practice squad. They have to go out and get somebody. However, Budda Baker's name has come up yet again this week, and while most of us in Philadelphia has written that off as something that is not going to happen, something happened this week specifically with Budda Baker that makes the Howie Roseman, trade talk rumors start to kind of glow a little bit hotter. Budda Baker was a healthy scratch for the Arizona Cardinals this weekend against the Giants. Now, when you're a healthy scratch, that basically means that the team is looking at trade options and is not going to play you, or you're facing some sort of weird discipline like the Bears threatened Chase Claypool with it. But Ian Rappaport pointed out that the Rams did the same thing with Cam Akers this week, and this morning he said that it was due to trade talks. Quote, Rams have had trade talks centered around running back Cam Akers. Starter in week 1 was inactive for week 2 after a difficult week of practice. Kyron Williams is now the starter, and Akers' spot is up in the air. And so you see here, the Rams don't want him to get hurt. They obviously want to move on to a different running back, and they're now letting him sit, eventually be an inactive, healthy scratch. That way he, 1, can't get injured if a team tries to go ahead and trade for him, and 2, they can let the backup running back get some reps in there. And while there's been no official reporting that this is what the Arizona Cardinals are doing, you can at least start to kind of put on your tinfoil hat and say, well, if they wanted to trade him, they wouldn't want him to play this weekend, get hurt against the Giants, and tank his value. And so if Philadelphia was going to make a move, it feels like this week would be the week. Now, Eagles reporter Jeff Kerr was on 97.5 The Fanatic today, and he was asked about the whole Baker situation. He said this, I've been talking to a bunch of people in Arizona about this for months and months and months. I know the Eagles are interested in a safety, but it seems like Budda Baker is off the table, and Quote, and while this doesn't mean he's off the table for the rest of the year, at least for the foreseeable future, maybe he's not on the trade block? You see how this can get so confusing, right? In one hand, Philadelphia needs to make a move. On the other hand, they've been linked to Budda Baker multiple times, surely have called the Arizona Cardinals, but as of right now, the Cardinals don't want to trade him. But then they put him on the, weeks 2 inactive healthy scratch roster, and you go, why else would you put him there unless you were trying to get a trade done? With Philadelphia having a copious amount of injuries in the secondary right now, if there was ever a time to make a move for Budda Baker, get him acclimated during a weaker part of the NFL schedule, that way he's ready to go for the latter half when you play Dallas, and you play the Chiefs, and you play the Bills. This seems to be the time that makes the most sense. What do you guys think? Would you make a move for Budda Baker? More specifically, answer down below in the comment section, what would you give up for Budda Baker? You're not giving up a first-round draft pick. You know how he won't do it for a second. Would you consider a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth? What draft pick would be the most worthy of someone like Budda Baker's talents to come in and help out Philadelphia not only at safety, but also potentially line up in the nickel for a couple of plays? If you wanted to go the veteran route who's on the free agent market, there is a name that's popped up, and Jacob Media talked about it today on their morning show, and that is the savvy all-pro former Denver Bronco in Chris Harris. Now, Harris was not signed for a football team during training camp or during OTAs, and he is 34 years old, but according to Jeff McMullen, he does make some sense, right? He's a 4-time Pro Bowler who has one of the league's top slot cornerbacks for years in Denver. You wouldn't be getting that Harris, of course, but he has proved more than capable in 10 games he played with the New Orleans Saints last season, and is on the record when it comes to his plan of ring shopping at this point in his career. Now, this is, of course, true in the fact that he did play 10 games last season for the New Orleans Saints and was definitely serviceable, potentially better than Mario Goodrich. And he also said during the offseason he wants to go ahead and ring chase and play for a team that actually has a chance at winning a Super Bowl. I want to wait and see what team has a great chance to win a Super Bowl and then try to hop on with them. Teams pretty much know I'm not planning to do any training camp or anything like that. I'll do the same thing I did last year. I'm not doing training camp and all that OTA stuff like that anymore. And so while you think if Philadelphia wanted to call Chris Harris, they would have done it already. We would have had a report that he's come in for a workout. That hasn't happened yet, but as Howie Roseman gets going here on a Monday with an extra day to get ready for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next Monday night, maybe they start making some phone calls to either the Arizona Cardinals or other football teams that have spare nickel cornerback players, or for instance like Chris Harris, potentially bring them in for workouts, make a trade, sign them, and try and shore up the secondary. Now again, Philadelphia doesn't need to go out and get any of these players. Their defense has won 2 games, and they played great at times and struggled at other times. I just think most people, like you guys watching the show right now, think Philadelphia needs to make some moves, especially if the injuries, which we have no update on as of this morning on a Monday, might be a little bit longer than we actually think. How long is Reed Blakenship going to go ahead and be out? Where's James Bradbury's concussion sitting at right now? These are answers we don't know yet. You should subscribe for plenty of more answers on that, hopefully tomorrow. But if Philadelphia wants to win a Super Bowl, they need to make sure they have depth at some of these key positions, including nickel cornerback, hence a move could potentially be on the horizon. Now, the other dramatic thing that happened during the Thursday night win against the Vikings, besides all the injuries, was the A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni, Avonte Smith scuffle? Do you want to call it that? Verbal argument? However you want to say it. Well, we still haven't heard from A.J. Brown, but Jalen Hurts did address the situation saying, quote, I think everybody wants to make plays, everyone wants to contribute. I have no worry about him. He's a great player, a great teammate, a great friend, and will do anything and everything to win, end quote. These two are best friends. There is no drama in Philadelphia. People saying that the Eagles should trade A.J. Brown because he's a dramatic wide receiver and did this with the Tennessee Titans is ridiculous, stupid, and makes absolutely no sense. It is a little interesting that A.J. Brown has not spoken about this at all. Nothing on Twitter, nothing on a podcast, nothing from a media standpoint in the locker room, but he does have a whole week where he will have reporters around him. I expect a statement and probably something in the lines of, it's not a big deal, don't worry about it, we're just fine. Either way, Philadelphia does need to get the football into A.J. Brown's hands. Smitty is dominating and playing great ball, but you have another number 1 wide receiver who, yes, takes a lot of double teams, but if you can pound the rock like they did with DeAndre Swift this past week, and then not only find Goddard and Devontae Smith, but also A.J. Brown, Philadelphia's offense, which has been a little bit up and down so far through 2 weeks of the season, might be able to kind of pick things up and be more dominant. Now, the Eagles have a very interesting week ahead of them. Obviously, potential signings, potential trades, and injury updates, covering it all here on a channel that's almost at 19,000 subs. If y'all appreciate what I do, go ahead and subscribe, give the show a thumbs up. They also have a very, I'd say, fascinating matchup on Monday Night Football against the resurgent Mike Evans, the 2-0 Baker Mayfield, and a Bucs team that should not be this good. We'll break all that down and a whole lot more, so get ready for Monday night. Plenty of stuff happening on a Monday. Will any of these moves actually make sense or actually come true? Just follow the channel and stay tuned for everything happening within inside the world of the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show.